Welcome back everyone to Jface Games. Today we are talking about Shadowdark. And this is the first video in the series of 3 where we're going to be talking about how it runs. What is it? I think that one of my friends on the Discord channel, Epi, said it best, that it's a survival game, right? So this is a OSR style game that is sort of got a lot of the 5e math. And it is going to be playing like a survival game. It's about how long can you last before dying. And it's a very interesting game. I love a lot of the rules behind it, and we're going to get into it right now. So first off, it is a roll over d20 system. It's very similar to 5e. You're trying to roll above whatever the DC is. They have a nice little list of DCs. Right off the bat here, you have easy as a 9, normal as a 12, hard as a 15, extreme as an 18. If we talk about OSR, if you ever go look at Dungeon Beast, I think that's his name. Dungeon Beast, what you would see is that he had a video about 5% recently, and he was talking about OSR being a 5% game, where when you're starting off, your success rate is like 25% at first level, and by the time you get to 10th level, it's roughly 75% success rate. So you can see here that the math in this game, even though it's OSR style, the math is a little bit more lenient. It's not 25% success rate at first level. You're probably going to have somewhere in a +2, +4 range, and you're trying to get a 9 or higher. That's not too bad for easy, and a 12 or higher for normal. That's not 25% for a normal scenario. So, not too bad right off the bat. Now, there are some other resolution mechanics. There's if I ever have a question about something, I roll a d6. If it's a 1, 2, or 3, it's the worst outcome. If it's a 4, 5, or 6, it's the better outcome. So that's sort of like a fortune roll to see what's going on. And then contested rolls, so you're both going to roll a d20 plus your stat modifiers, and whichever one's higher is going to win. When it comes to ancestries, we've got 6 of them. You got a dwarf, goblin, elf, half-orc, halfling, and human. These are very thematic, right? It's very, very simplistic. If I were going to say something about this game that's nice, it's the simplicity of it, right? And when I say the simplicity is that the math is tight. It's very simplistic in terms of the bonuses when you're collecting your character and putting them together. It's a lot of little +1s, right? This is a +1 better. This is +1 better. So it keeps the math nice and tight. But those +1s matter. That's 5% improvement over someone else. And then there's an advantage-disadvantage system in this game where that's the bonus you're looking for is, do I have advantage? I get to roll 2 dice and take the higher, or disadvantage. But they never really say this is what's going to give you advantage-disadvantage, which opens up a lot of room for roleplay, right? You're going to be trying to figure out what would be advantageous in this thought-out scenario versus if I'm flanking you, I'm going to get advantage-disadvantage, which sort of now guides my play. This is a little bit more open-ended, but some of these characteristics that you're going to see in the different classes, they will stay specific advantage, disadvantage, but it's a much more generalized concept behind what you're getting advantage or disadvantage for. So very thematic kind of concepts here for your classes or your ancestries, very simplistic. Attributes are your standard Dungeons & Dragons 6, strength, dexterity, con, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Very nicely laid out here. And your modifiers is the exact same as 5e in general. There are no skills per se in this game. There's no, you don't have stealth, you don't have a specific perception, a specific stealth, like the 5e skills. You don't have those. What you do have is your class is going to say something like grit here, where the fighter has grit, choose strength or dexterity, and you have advantage on checks that use that type, right? For the rogue or the thief in this game, I apologize, the thief, pretty much it says here, any sort of thievery stuff. If you're climbing, sneaking, hiding, guess what? You've got advantage in that situation because that's something you would be good at. There's also, in this game, you have backgrounds, and those backgrounds are very thematic, but they're very, once again, simplistic in nature. Here you have a list of 20. You could roll a d20. I think you could choose if you'd like to. Pretty much any of these backgrounds gives you herbalist. You know plants, medicine, and poison. So anytime you have a situation where you think that your background would help, you tell your DM, and the DM probably says, guess what? You've got advantage, right? Once again, because the rules are so simplistic in nature, and that they're not hard and fast in terms of this is the only way to get advantage, it really makes it so that there should be a dialogue between the player and the DM in order to try and get these things. All right, so that's really what's going on here. You've got 4 classes. You've got the priest, the fighter, the thief, and the wizard. This is the basic design of the class. You're going to have what weapons can I use? What armor can I use? What's my starting hit points? What are my abilities? In essence, the things that are either going to give me like a +1 or they're going to give me some advantage in some situation. And then I've got my talents here. And this is pretty much all of your leveling, right? When you advance in levels, certain levels, it's like every even level, I think, or no, every odd level, you get to roll on this talent die. You roll 2d6, which means that the odds are you're probably going to get a 7, but you could get a 2 and you could get a 12, which means those are really good. And this ends up giving you a +1 in something, or if you get a stat bonus, guess what? That's +2 into a strength. That gives you +1 into attacking. And then you can maybe get some better armor, or if you're lucky, you get mastery in something, additional mastery, or you get additional +2, choose another talent, or you get to distribute stat points, blah, blah, blah. Same thing for all these other classes. The same thing kind of applies. Hit points, armor, weapons, some sort of abilities, your spell casting here, and then you have these talents. So advancing in levels is very simple. You're going to get some more hit points, and you're going to potentially roll on these talents. Very clean. When it comes to equipment, you're going to have slots on your character sheet. We'll take a look at the character sheet later. Your slots, how many things you can hold, is based on your strength. You got a 16 strength, you got 16 slots. Certain items are going to be more slots than others. Easy as pie in terms of that. What else do we have? We also have alignment in this game. I like that they brought back alignment. Some games have gotten rid of alignment. Here, they just said, look, we're not going to say good versus evil. We're just going to say, are you chaotic, lawful, or neutral? And there are different deities that fit that role. And one of the coolest things about this is down here in terms of titles. So what level you are, and whether you're lawful, chaotic, or neutral, you now have a title that you're going to get. And I love this. The reason I love this is because it gives you something else to strive for thematically. Like, I would love the idea of playing and being like, oh, I'm now a squire, but I can't wait to be a knight, and work that into the story. So to me, this is just thematic. Any of these little things that I get to look forward to and tell story around, to me, is exciting, right? That makes me kind of happy. Now, if we go back to spell casting, because I think this is important, you got to talk about magic. What happens with these spell casting classes, like a wizard? Well, what ends up happening is that it all comes down to how you cast a spell. So when you cast a spell, you have to, in order to cast a spell, you need to be successful, which is, there's a DC to casting that spell, which is 10 plus the level of the spell. So if it's a first level spell, that means I got to roll an 11 or higher. And you're going to roll a d20 plus either your intelligence modifier if you're a wizard, or your wisdom modifier if you are a priest. If you succeed, then guess what? You cast a spell. Hooray! If you fail, you can't cast the spell again for the rest of the day. Okay, so there's no spell slots. So that's nice, because now, once again, this is a resource management game as you get down, deeper into the dungeon, right? So it's a resource management game. The biggest resource being light, which we'll talk about in a second. But here we have one of the resources being magic. If I cast this spell, what's the chance that I'm going to still have this spell? Or do I cast it now? Do I save it? Do I keep casting it? That kind of thing. So there's no spell slots per se. Critical success, you're going to do double damage. Critical failure, you might have a mishap. Good old classic mishaps, which is very OSR. There are scrolls and magic items that you can use to cast abilities with, and those are kind of like Cypher, if you've ever played the Cypher system, where they're all one-time uses, and it's all a one-time use, and you're going to roll a DC to see if you can actually use that ability, and if you succeed, it happens. If not, it's gone. What else happens? Well, I didn't really see any conditions in the game. There probably are some, but I didn't see them in my read-through. The only one I really saw was morale. And advantage and disadvantage, right? Morale being something that enemies have, and at some point in time, if they lose like half their ranks, they make wisdom checks, and they're trying to make a DC 15 wisdom check to see if they stick around. Otherwise, they flee. There are other ways to modify your dice. There are things called luck tokens, and luck tokens are really nice. In essence, a luck token is a reroll. You get to reroll a die, and it's really nice. They give some good advice in terms of the GM section, where they say, if you're looking for a heroic field, give people 3 to 5 luck tokens at the beginning of like going into a dungeon, or the beginning of the night maybe. If you're feeling more grimdark, gritty, then give them only 1. And that's pretty much the system, right? You've got AC from your armor. That armor is very much like 5e in the sense that you've got your dex, or you've got leather armor, which your dex, it's like 14 or so, or it's like your dex plus a little bit of bonus. And it all makes sense, right? It all makes sense. The monster stats are really simplistic. They do a really nice job in this, making these stat blocks super concise. Once you learn the abbreviations, this is a thug. Look at that. It's like 5 lines. AC 13, that's what you got to hit. Hit points 4, and then it's dead. It's going to attack with a short sword, and it's got a d6 to hit. Its strength is +1, so that means it's going to be rolling a d20 +1 when it's trying to hit your AC. Simple, right? If it had a ranged weapon, it would be DC. It would just be a straight d20 to try and hit your AC, etc. Level 1, so that gives you an idea of, oh, okay, that's how many hit dice it has, potentially. Alignment, it's chaotic in nature. Perfect. Movement, near. Okay, so if we look at movement is going to be, in essence, close is 5 feet, near is up to 30 feet. So if someone has move near, it means they can move 30 feet, right? Very simplistic in that sense. So it's very clean. So you look at these rules and you say to yourself, okay, it seems very trimmed down, right? Trim the fat. On a player's turn, they get 1 action, 1 move. Very simple. The actions, it's pretty much just attack, right? You have spells versus just attack. And when you look at initiative is a d20 plus dex modifier. And what's nice about this is whoever wins initiative, then you go clockwise from that person. So everyone rolls. Oh, you got the highest. You've got an 18. All right, we're going clockwise from there around the table, and the DM is just in that clockwise. So everything is very crisp and clean. That is because it's trying to make sure the rules are not in the way of you as a player trying to say what's happening, right? The GM is going to be saying what's going on in the setting, and the player should be interacting with that setting and interacting what's going on in the world, right? The other thing this book has is the best set of tables I've ever seen. There is a table for everything in this game. There are, if I went to the middle of the book, there is a table for encounters for every setting you can think of, right? So here's our random encounters table. Arctic, artisan, castle, cave, deep tunnels, desert, forest, grasslands, high district, jungle, low district, market, mountain, ocean, rivers, ruins, blah, blah, blah. Each one of those, 100 encounters. 100 encounters for each of those. And it's in the middle of the book. You just flip right through it. They have hex maps for movement. Pretty much the GM, there are different scenarios between if the tension is high versus the tension's low. There's three levels of sort of tension. I forget the word they use actually. And depending on that, it lets you know what's the chance of a random encounter happening. So, and that's the part of the game that you're managing, right? You're managing the story of like, what am I going to do in this scenario to better get advantage? So how am I acting with the world and with my friends in order to get an advantageous scenario so I can roll better? And what do we need to do to make sure that we're not getting these random encounters and that we're getting towards our objective, which is treasure. I mean, treasure in this game is how you level. Treasure is XP, treasure and boons. These are the things that are going to give you XP in order to level up, which is really great. So you're trying to dig down into the dungeon. Now, the last thing, which was controversial when it came out, I think, at least with the people that I talked to, is torches. Torches is light. Light in this game is real time. So if you have a light that is a torch, that lasts for 1 hour, and that is 1 hour of actual real time. And I think it's very interesting, right? I have not played it, so I don't know how it feels. There was a lot of the people that I was talking to on Discord at the time were like, oh, what about bathroom breaks? What about this? I think that you'd figure that out as a party. But I think what it's trying to say is, look, we've got limited time, and you can't just be dawdling through this. You have to be acting quickly. And even when you're not in combat, there is still an initiative order. So you roll a different initiative order for in combat versus out of combat, and the GM's going around the table. And whenever it gets to the GM's turn, they're rolling to see if there's an encounter, depending on the deadly. So if it's not a deadly scenario, every third time it gets back to the GM, they're rolling a d6, right? To see if there's an encounter. On a 1, there's an encounter. And so that feels like a clock, right? Oh, the GM's about to go. Is it going to be time to fight something again? You've got this torch burning. Ooh, that's a clock. You've got spells burning out. We no longer have that spell. That's a clock. Resting in this game, there's no short rests. It's only long rests, right? So there's only one rest mechanic That's a clock, right? When do we rest? Is it safe to rest? So that's, I think, the real tension in this game. And I think it's very interesting. We'll see in the next video, which is the playthrough video, how it feels. I don't want to show you a bunch of the tables in here just because I'll show you one. We'll show you one table. So like, look, here's a tavern encounters. There are 100 encounters, I believe. And it goes all the way down here. And some of these are really cool. Rival crawlers try to pawn off a map nobody can decipher. Well, that sounds like, oh crap, now I have to design rival encounter or rival dungeon crawlers. Don't worry, there is a table for that. There's a table for everything in this game. So let me see if I can find it real quick. Boom, rival crawlers. What race are they? Or what ancestry, sorry, I'm old school. What ancestry are they? What class are they? What alignment are they? What wealth? What's their secret? And then down here, what's the party name? What's the name? What are they known for? What are their signature tactics? I mean, it's so fast to be able to whip up things for your game. That's what this book to me does, is even if I didn't play Shadowdark, I'd buy this book. Or I just because all the other tables make it worth it to me. And so I'll leave it at that having the tables from this book alone is worth having, even if it's not at the table when you're playing, but for prep time for other games. It's really, really quick. And there's another table for names. So you whip up these people and then you need the names of the actual players. Well, guess what? Here's NPC names by race. Here's 20 of each race. Ancestry by ancestry. So it's really cool. That's Shadowdark. We'll do the playthrough next. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and please leave a comment.